Hi guys, Coach Ed Haynes here to bring you another video discussing the training priorities of the strength and conditioning program. This first video is going to be specifically targeted towards a fitness program, and for those of you just joining us, this is something we do every 4 to 8 weeks. Essentially what you might have noticed is that the training program evolves, and as the training program evolves, we think it's really important that we get some information, education over to you guys as to what we're doing and why we're doing it, and with the hope that it's going to add to the investment that you put into your training, and the more investment you put in, the more you're going to get out of it. So those of you who tuned in before, welcome back, and those of you for the first time, welcome. Hopefully you find this to be beneficial. First and foremost, something I'd like to talk about is we have a really cool event coming up. This is potentially a slightly shameful plug, but wanted to talk about the fitness camp. The fitness camp is going to be on the 27th of October. It's a one-day camp. If the word camp is a bit daunting and throws you off a little bit, basically the content of that week of that day is going to be talking about everything else outside of what you're typically used to in your gym. So we're going to cover topics like stress management, the importance of sleep. We're going to talk about nutrition, and a ton of other really cool topics. And on top of that, we're going to put you guys into some workout simulations where we're actually going to be training, and with each training session there'll be a ton of feedback from our coaching team to ensure that you leave the weekend with some great information and things that you can put into your life and training right away. Anyway, what I'm going to do is in the comment section underneath this video, I'll include a link to our website which has more information on the camp, and you guys at Coastal and who are following remotely are going to see a ton of information come out over the next couple of weeks. It would be great to see you there. Promise it's going to be a really insightful and beneficial weekend to you. Okay, so goals of the fitness program. We're always going to touch on these just to remind people who follow our program what we're doing and why we're doing it. First and foremost is to develop upper body and lower body structural balance. We're also looking to develop all strength qualities across a broad spectrum, so from strength endurance all the way to absolute strength and power. We want to develop energy system capacities from anywhere between long and lower intensity bouts of work to shorter and high intensity bouts. The focus for us in the fitness group, and in fact amongst all our groups, is always placing a focus on the long term. We don't really believe in short-term fixes, and we want you guys to adopt that same mindset. Typically how the program works for the fitness group is we're not actually peaking you guys for the CrossFit Open, which is the goals of the Performance Competitors program. We want to deliver a program that's going to continually move that needle towards those goals which you just discussed in the safest and healthiest way possible. And how we typically do that is we move through phases of accumulation and we move through phases of intensification. So when we talk about accumulation versus intensification with regards to kind of strength and conditioning training, accumulation basically means we're working higher repetitions, higher volume work at slightly lighter loads. You might see perhaps more kind of isolation work and accessory work in there. That might look like single arm, single limb exercise in our program. And then when you get into intensification work, we're typically thinking about the opposite of that. So heavier bouts of training, perhaps lower repetitions, perhaps less accessory work, more compound exercises, maybe more high intensity training with regards to energy system training. So where we're currently at is we've just come out of a nice 8 to 12 week accumulation cycle, and we're going to now move into an intensification cycle. So in simple terms, we're going to be doing heavier work for the next 4 to 8 weeks. How that's going to be structured is over the next 8 weeks, we're going to be programming 2 deload weeks. So we're going to basically go through 3 weeks of really hard training where we're going to typically, the goal is to actually kind of break you down a little bit in a healthy way, not in a negative way. And in that 4th week, to take the foot off the gas a little bit, allow ourselves to recover and reboot. And then we're going to come back into week 5 and hit another hard 3 weeks of training with a deload week at the end of that. Now the deload week doesn't mean that we want you guys to stay at home and not train and just relax. We're still going to be training. There's still going to be hard training, but we're just going to deload and not hit your nervous system quite so hard. So the next piece now is we're going to talk about how we've split up your training week. So as a first little reminder is that our training week for the fitness program is we train on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday is a scheduled rest day, and then we train Thursday, Friday, Saturday, with Sunday being our next rest day. Now, the reason for that is we want the majority of our program, or the majority of our clients who follow that fitness program, to commit to at the very least 3 sessions a week, and at the most 5 sessions a week. Now, some people will actually do more than 5 sessions, and they'll be supplementing our 5 days of training with some accessory work, movement work, perhaps attending one of our other niche classes like barbell club or gymnastic strength or functional movement. But typically it's a 5-day training week, and the reason for that is to make sure that we're not overloading you, but also so that you guys don't miss out on some important stimulus in your training week. We know that, and the research over the years and the more we've been in this industry, is that it's very hard for people to commit to 6 days a week consistently for long term. So rather than people missing important touches of our program, we've just gone with a 5-day training week, which seems to be much more effective. So breaking up our week now. Monday, we're typically going to have Monday as your heaviest or hardest strength training day. So you're going to always see your heavier, more compound movements being like multi-joint exercises. So great examples of that would be like the deadlift, the squat, the clean, and the push press. So Monday's always going to be a hard day for us, and they've typically done that because most of us are coming out of a rest day on the weekend. So Monday, typically for the group, should be our most neurally freshest day to be able to attack harder training. So we're always going to start with some clean work for the next 4 to 8 weeks, followed by developing some absolute strength endurance overhead. So think of that as kind of moderate to moderately heavy loads with more repetitions of that. And then we're always going to kind of finish your Monday sessions with some barbell or dumbbell or odd object loaded type conditioning. We're going to keep that nice and varied, and those of you who attend those Mondays are going to kind of see some reoccurring themes happening there. But typically on that Monday, expect kind of less metabolic fatigue, so less breathing work, less demand on the cardiorespiratory system, and you're going to see more demand on the muscular system and the neural system, so kind of like that heavier draining work. Our Tuesdays are going to be a little bit easier in terms of how demanding it is on the body and the brain. It's always going to be our kind of upper body gymnastics based day. It's a theme we've stuck with for quite a while now. We're going to keep that rolling. We're always going to work and start on some pulling development. For those who've been in the fitness program for a while, you guys are going to know that getting the ability to do pull-ups, any variation of it, is a really important part of the fitness program. And for those of you who don't have it yet, be really patient. Repetition and accumulation over time is going to get you there, and we're going to continue to mix between banded assisted work and eccentric work and pulling through different planes. I promise if you continue to hit those Tuesday sessions, eventually you will unlock your pull-up. We're then going to do some mixed modal fatigue based upper body training on a Tuesday. So mixed modal, what we're typically referring to is we're mixing modalities between weightlifting, gymnastics, and monostructural exercise. That's like your running, your rowing, your biking, your skipping, kind of mixing those in a not so structured but also structured fashion, with an emphasis on the upper body. So expect to really feel like lactate blood build up in the upper body pushing and pulling muscles on those Tuesdays in a semi-fatigue based setting, so you will be breathing as well. Wednesday, of course, is a rest day for you guys. On Thursdays, we're going to be working kind of some total body strength circuits to start. This is a critical day for you guys because also you're coming out of a rest day. So how the Thursday is going to be structured is we're going to get, for our A and our B work, some pushing, some pulling, some hinging, and some squatting type movements. How that's going to look might vary from week to week, but think of it as kind of like slower, controlled strength training with some deliberate rests in there. Then we're going to be finishing those Thursdays with some aerobic threshold training. So when we talk about aerobic threshold training, it means we're working kind of short to moderate time periods where we're really pushing the intensity and kind of like our perceived rate of exertion, going hard and hard and hard and short and fast, and then we're going to rest, and your rest is going to kind of be incomplete, and then you're going to repeat. So in summary, short to moderate periods of work at higher intensities, with kind of short to moderate rests. So that rest should actually feel incomplete. Fridays, we're now going to focus on driving up your deadlift absolute strength. So we're going to do heavier work with our deadlift, and that will be always to kick off and start your session. And then followed by some squatting absolute strength speed work. So in simple terms, we're looking at kind of light to moderate loads through the squatting pattern. So typically for us in the fitness group, that is single leg variations, the front squat or the back squat. And we're actually going to be looking to move faster out of the bottom and for higher repetitions. So that might be in kind of like an EMOM setting, every minute on the minute or every 90 seconds. But typically you're going to find that your rest periods for those strength speed protocols are going to be shorter than what you're probably used to. We're always going to finish those Fridays with a short conditioning piece. And again, we're going to keep that nice and varied. So you might see couplets, so a mixture between 2 movements, or triplets, working anywhere between kind of 3 to 8 minutes of work, and getting you guys to kind of push. If there was ever a day to race in the gym, that would be the day. But remember, we never race and push intensity at the compromise of movement quality. And that's a theme that we're always going to remind you guys about. Saturdays, we're going to keep with the aerobic theme that we've stuck with for the last kind of 10 to 12 weeks. We like this because at the end of the week, we do understand that our nervous systems as well as our muscular systems are fairly beat up from kind of 4 hard days of training. So the idea here is to move, to sweat, to throw some variation at you guys. We might even be putting some kind of team and partner workouts in for the next few weeks just to kind of change things up. But I still think it's a very important integral part of the training week. It's not to say that this is not an important day, but you know, developing the ability to continually move for longer periods of time or longer bouts of time is also a really important facet of fitness. Some concluding thoughts for the fitness program. Your movement prep, you'll always see on What Up for each day is some specific movement prep that has been designed to essentially prep you for the workout ahead of time. Now, this is work that we don't typically do in the class, and the reason it's up there and is provided, and we provide you with YouTube links, is so you guys can do some self-guided extra mobility work. What we do know is that the better you can move, the not only healthier and safer you're going to be, but the more return on investment you're going to get from your training. So if you know that you're someone who perhaps is tighter than most or struggles with over tension in certain areas, highly recommend that you do this work. And even if you're someone you're not, it's still a great thing to be giving our bodies some sweet and tender love. Rest and catch-up days for those who are training at Coastal Fitness is of course your Wednesdays and Sundays. If for whatever reason the schedule that we've laid out doesn't work for you, we would love for you to come in on a Wednesday and Sunday. You're still going to be a part of the class. You're still going to receive coaching. We're just going to prioritize the other 2 groups, and we're going to say the same thing to those guys on their Thursday. For those who are following the program remotely, of course, you're more than welcome to mix up the training week. What I would say though is that the training days and the stimulus on each day is specifically designed to have 2 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off. So if you start to squeeze the workouts together, perhaps you do 5 days in a row, you're not going to be able to optimally perform on each day based on probably cumulative fatigue or the repeating of very similar movement patterns. For those of you who might be suffering from aches and pains and injuries, and those who aren't, expect that is something that's going to come. The more and more someone as a human invests in hard physical training with the goal of getting stronger, fitter and faster, I think it's really normal to expect that you're going to pick up some bumps, bruises and injuries along the way. That doesn't mean that we ignore those things. The first piece of advice I'll give you is to speak to one of the coaching team and ask them what you should be doing. But picking up a small niggle or a small injury is not an excuse to stop training. We highly recommend that you continue the training process. It's really easy for us to make some simple training adaptations, as well as giving you some prehab, rehab and movement work to help try rectify the problem. And we can get you kind of back to doing a full spectrum of training as soon as possible. But just a reminder, don't stop training, guys. Keep on doing it. Speak to one of the coaches. We have a great tissue therapist and physiotherapist at Coastal now who are very experienced and can kind of help you out there as well. Talking about our 3 different programs, especially for those that are new, remember we do have 3 different programs within the S&C program. You guys following the fitness program, your goals aren't specifically catered or targeted towards the CrossFit Open. The performance and competitors group are. Now, if that is something of interest to you, that you're thinking that you perhaps like to move between the fitness group to the performance group, all you got to do is shoot me an email. We do have a set of prerequisites, and that is kind of strength and movement based prerequisites that we require everyone in the performance group to meet before they move into that group. And that's purely for a safety reason, but also to ensure that you're getting the correct response from the stimulus provided. For those who are interested in developing their Olympic lifting skills, as well as their gymnastics and movement, we do have some specialty classes for you guys. Just kind of reach out to front desk and find out when those are on. But we have the Barbell Club, which runs 3 times a week. We have functional movement, which runs once a week, which is kind of more of like a movement mobility based class. And then we have functional strength, which is really utilizing body weight type movements, a lot of gymnastics movements for extra strength development. Little reminder, log everything and anything. Every time you come into Coastal and you train and you're following the program, or if you're following the program remotely, we want your details into the system. The way that we design our training programs is based on the feedback that you guys provide us. So the more feedback you can provide us, the better. Last little one, guys, a lot of you have been providing us with some really great feedback on the Coastal Fitness Performance Training YouTube podcast. For those who've never tuned in before, head over to our YouTube channel, Coastal Fitness HK, led by Mr. Sad Alami. We are getting weekly videos up and covering an array of different topics, some of them being Q&A based from you guys, some of them being kind of hot topics that we think is really appropriate for us to kind of share with you guys as the audience. Make sure you tune in and leave us some feedback. We are in the process of moving those podcasts onto iTunes so they're a little bit more accessible, but it's a bit of a work in progress. Thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you do have any questions, please reach out to one of the coaching team.